Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having us here. I'm Dunlop, and I'm Chief Executive of the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre. And as Margaret said, when we're dealing with violence against women, it's a silent crime, and how much more silent is rape and sexual abuse. In Ireland, we have the longest running chat show. It's called the Late Late Show. It was a myth in Ireland that it's a show where topics that were unspeakable were spoken about for the first time. In fact, there was a joke that there was no sex in Ireland Late Show. Well, we know that wasn't the case. But talking about how we can combat violence against women, it is in Ireland. Of course, it was women getting together that absolutely addressed this situation to begin with. In 1979, there was a worldwide movement called Reclaim the Night. And in Dublin, there was a horrendous gang rape in Sean McDermott Street. A young 16-year-old girl was brutally raped. And it motivated 5,000 women in Dublin who walked the streets and to reclaim the night. And out of that, a group of women got together and they set up a helpline. And it was for victims of rape and sexual abuse. And that was, as I say, 1979. And in 1979, there were 78 calls to that helpline. In 2010, there were over 11,000 calls to that helpline. So I suppose the really good thing is that people are now feeling confident that they can come out and talk about what has happened to them. The help is there. Unfortunately, as all the previous speakers have said, we suffer hugely from lack of funding. Our funding has been cut. Our funding in the Rape Crisis Centre, our government funding, has been cut continuously since 2008, and we still, since 2008, as you probably all have heard of the Ferns, the Ryan, the Murphy and Klein reports. They were reports that validated the stories that we have been hearing in the therapy rooms about children being abused in institutions, children being abused in their homes, children being abused by people in church and institutions run by the church. And these stories are harrowing. We have the helpline is a 365-day-a-year helpline. It's operated from the centre each day from 8 o'clock in the morning to 7 in the evening, and then it's taken over by a group of committed, trained volunteers who take the helpline from 7 in the evening to 8 in the morning, and also operate it over the weekends. And during those reports, when the reports came out, the stories were, as I say, harrowing. Some were from very old people who have been victims of these heinous crimes in their childhood, have never spoken to anybody about them, and wanted to have one person hear their story. They were never going to talk about it again. And also we had stories from parents who didn't believe their children, and whose children had become addicts, who had taken their own lives, and who are living very dysfunctional lives. So we in the Rape Crisis Centre not only see the victims of recent rape and sexual assault, we also see victims of childhood sexual abuse. And in 2010, our statistics told us that where our clientele were 40% victims of childhood sexual abuse and 60% were victims of recent rape and sexual assault, now it's practically 50-50. In fact, it's probably tipped to a little bit more, 52% for victims of childhood sexual abuse. So acknowledging the violence and accepting the reality of rape and sexual abuse in our society is terribly important, because only then can we address the problem and help people. Last week, an extremely brave, courageous woman called Lorraine Mulvey waived her right to anonymity after her father was sentenced to 6 years in prison for raping her as a child. And the reason that she waived her right to anonymity was because she wanted to say to other victims, lift up the phone, ring the number, there is help, you can be helped, you can come through this. I can stand up and say that 1,000 times, but to hear a woman like Lorraine Mulvey, who demonstrated in her very being that she had come through the awfulness of childhood sexual abuse and had got the support that she needed, and she had come through, it was just fantastic. We also can we run campaigns, we do all the things that Margaret said, and with her organisation we work together, we raise awareness, we lobby, and we had one awareness raising campaign running some time ago, and it was the 24-hour helpline number was on the bus, and there was a trafficked woman who was being forced into prostitution in an apartment in Dublin, and she had a phone because that was what she was given to contact people who wanted to come and, I would say, not avail of her services but abuse her, because she was a woman who was being abused continuously. But she saw the number on the bus, and she realised a little bit too late what it was, and she just got half the number. But thankfully another bus came along and she was able to get the full number, and she rang the number, and anyway she was freed, and she was looked after by Rohanna subsequently. But it's really important that us women work together, and we do work together. We've lots to do, we need a lot of support, and I would be happy to take any questions and answers in the next session. Thank you very much.